You know what's terrifying about Alpha Strike? The C3 costs. They're, like, literally non-existent. I decided as kind of a lark to take a Mani to Mini list because I've never actually done it, what with its one skill pilots and all that craziness. Complete with C3 Lance, we got the Militia following in with them just to thicken out the Force roster, while my opponent has a Command Lance for the Draconis Combine, complete with C3 system. A Battle Lance to also fill out that roster, complete with C3. And we have a Recon, complete with C3, and filling out for a full company is Sir Not Seen on this Batrep, which is a bunch of field artillery and some scout tanks to roll as escort. I actually kind of digressed with my buddy that he probably should have, filled it out with 4 tubes, but he thought it was kind of cheesy, which I wouldn't say so. I don't necessarily agree. I mean, if you're going to do artillery, do an artillery park. You're not going to hurt my feelings any. I mean, goodness knows I've done that. So my buddy Coinflip, he begins moving the Recon Lance up forward as he actually has an initiative advantage over me between his MHQ value and the fact that he actually has Recon, but not more than I do, at any rate. He actually got an initiative bonus against me, but I win initiative on the first turn. I move the Fire Lance up forward. The Militia are going to hold the ground, doing something really odd that you would never see in normal Battletech. We're going to let the Striker LRM tanks kind of hold their ground in lieu of the Vedettes, because I would have took the Vedette, but, point-wise and stat-wise, the Striker light tank is actually kind of better. It's really weird. I mean, take a look at it yourself. It's really odd. Also, moving in with the fire support is the Reavers, clocking in at a full 5th of my 500 points. It's like 108 if memory serves. They're just going to lumber in. I kind of like the abstract rolls. They're okay. But they're going to take a little while to get there. The rest of his force files in. I file in with the Mani to Mini. Moving in with the Preda and the Vanquisher, the Archangel, and the Shootist. And we got on the other end the Raijin, who's going to make a really long sweep of the board. Despite his initiative advantage, he loses initiative twice. Even with his commander, who gives him like a reroll every other turn, he loses it again. And he begins moving the Recon Lances up the middle and the side. He's trying to get close. He's trying to take advantage of the C3 system and the fact that he can forward observe, because he's got the Thumper rounds coming in from the artillery, and he's got that catapult over there, which is the Arrow 4 version, which is not a bad play. But he's firing homing rounds, so he's got to make sure one of those tags gets off on this turn. I really cheese out the initiative by letting the Fire Lance do nothing. I mean, there's no reason for the light tanks to go anywhere, so they just kind of park. They're really lousy LRM carriers, but in Alpha Strike, they're going to do okay. I mean, it's 1 point. While the Reavers continue thundering towards the field. I mean, this is going to be a reoccurring thing. Just, cue Hall of the Mountain King, because it's going to take like 4 turns for him to arrive. I begin moving the Mani to Mini up forward. Again, there's crazy awesome. As I throw the Preda up here, up on the right next to the kick-ass air conditioner, and he's in an attempt to try to kind of get a C3 mod. I'm not really planning this out as well as I probably should be. While the rest, the heavier units, the Vanquisher and the Archangel, continue lumbering, we're going to make a fire base out of this section of woods right here and let the Shootist kind of support from over here. Thumper round starts landing. He's playing smoke out here in the open, which is good. I mean, it's going to cover this firing lane. Meanwhile, he tries to tag. He does not succeed in tagging anything. A lot of shots are exchanged, but nothing really hits. Draconis Combine Command Lance decides to go ahead and take care of the Raijin that has moved into the woods over here and tried to be a cheeky little bastard. As he starts moving things across the river and into the woods through Grandma's house, we will stomp and try to engage that guy. The Mani to Mini, with all their elite badassery, starts moving forward. We're going to do everything we can to take advantage of the C3 network by telling the Preda to go get some. And I wasn't really thinking things through. What with the other units not standing still, and there's not really a clear line of fire. I mean, I try to slice the pie, so to speak, with the Archangel in such a way that if he has to engage the assault lance, more or less, that's on this hill over here, that they're going to have to do it through the woods. But it's not enough woods to actually block shots, so it doesn't matter. I might as well just, be on the edge in front of them. But I digress. There's too many targets to actually engage effectively, so now the scout lance for the Draconis Combine starts moving forward while the catapult in the back begins to continue to fruitlessly throw homing arrow rounds, and he can't seem to tag the broadside of a barn. It will not matter, though, because the light lance for the Draconis Combine have eagle eyes. Well, not necessarily the stat, but their hands are on that cold, sweaty trigger, and they are just hammering into the Preda that decided to get a little too close. I regret that. I got just a little too aggressive with him, and he manages to put him down. My buddy accurately predicts what value that tree line is going to be and starts throwing artillery rounds into it. One splashes onto it, another splashes over here near the strikers. And I'm going to have to move them out of the way now because we can't afford to repel firepower of that magnitude. Or at least, that would be more appropriate if I had that Death Star of a walking abomination, but not this time. I have a lot of lamentations about it, but for whatever it's worth, the Archangel is actually worth, the Archangel or the Vanquisher really, is worth as much as the tripod with the skill adjustment. It's pretty nuts. Realizing the kind of heat he's in, I send this Preda off the hill because it's really not doing any kind of good, and he starts, doing the dodgeball routine, and he starts evading. Have you seen the mods on what a skill 1 pilot does when he evades? Because between that, jumping, and the woods, he needs another elite pilot to go out there and start doing something to him, because until then, it's just... Have you ever played that game Armored Core? He's just hammering the thruster button and just nobody can hit him. After the battle is over, I'm going to have to appropriate some sort of hair dye for him because he has to look the part of what he's doing, because he's clearly humming the Geki Ganger song while he's clearing the trees with his thrusters over there. More artillery begins raining down into the woods. We start, softening up the Archangel and the Vanquisher. I can't afford to stay there, so we're going to have to do something about that. The Raijin, marked here, has so firmly lodged himself so far into the back of the Draconis lines that a Whitworth is having to be diverted to go deal with him. He starts moving back, but that 12J movement pattern of the Raijin is just a little bit much to take on. So he decides to go ahead and not devote a lot of resources to it, and instead try to do something about the soon-to-be blue-haired wonder child that is thundering through the woods over here with his evasions. He's just trying to get that C3 mod on anything that will get close to those woods. But the dragon marked here is the Kurita Ace. He's also the commander, so there's a possibility that he could actually do something to the Preda marked here. That he could actually do something. He's also got the Vindicator that's right next to him. It's got Sharpshooter. He could also do a lot of damage just if he can land it. Again, it's got some crazy mods. And you remember how I said I was going to move out of those woods? Ha! I did not. And he begins sending the Jenner out there to try to take on the Archangel. And how Alpha Strike works is there's nothing I can really do about it. There's some defensive formation moving that I can do, but there's nothing the Archangel can do about it himself. Besides, he's got better things to shoot at as the Marauder decides to thunder around. The Cyclops marked here, hiding right behind it, is carrying another C3 Masters. Good to take care of. While on the other side, we have an Interloper that's trying to engage the strikers, who previously been hit by artillery, decides, the jig is up, we might as well get the hell out of a dodge. But, he actually moved it early in the initiative track. The fire support moved later in the initiative track because the Reaver showed up, marked here. Ah, yes. Cue the Ride of the Valkyries, because they are so awesome. Striker manages to get behind the mech, but, who cares? He's going to deal 1, maybe 2 points of damage. The Reavers have arrived! And they're going to make all 108 points of their impressiveness felt. This Davian mech is designed to take on clan battle mechs in one-on-one engagements. And it might do okay. Can you guess what it is? Yeah, it has the looks only a mother would love, but the Falconer is an okay design. Artillery continues to ring home on the wood, softening up the Archangel even more, but managing to do a lot more damage to the Jenner in a hilarious turn of fate. Reavers open up with their alpha values and just completely eviscerate the catapult. It did not have a chance. I think I dealt like 18 damage to it. My dice were hot. They're just completely hot. We were doing variable damage, and it just did not matter. We turned it into confetti, and the Reavers just carry on. I mean, they have bombs, but the strike value is just so much higher. I mean, it's only when I come across something with a high TMM that I'll bother with the bombs, but right now we're just going to let things do as they should, as the Vanquisher and the Archangel finally get one, taking the Cyclops and telling him to go home, having cored him out and put him into force withdrawal. Raijin on the other side gives the Whitworth something to think about, dealing quite a bit of damage to it, and begins to beat feet onto the other side of the field. Having lost the initiative, I go ahead and, again, I use the Mani Domini to sink against everything else, as they're actually dealing with an Assassin and a Jenner in their back lines, and there's they're doing a lot of effort to try to do as much damage as possible, and they're really annoying the hell out of me. The Black Hawk Coup moves forward, feeling his oats. He decides, you know what, we're going to use our pilot special ability, Combat Intuition, trying to move forward before everyone else and attack before everyone else, but not before he gets demoralized, because the entire Mani division, my Assault division, has the Demoralizer special role, which is, I think Multitasker is actually better, but Demoralizer's hilarious because, it's the Mani Domini. They should be terrifying. And as my fire support platforms start moving in their initiative tick, we go ahead and send the Reavers down against the command unit, having moved all his other units around, and the dragon starts to park himself to try to take care of the thundering Thunder Child and that Preda, who has taken quite a bit of damage, actually. We decided to go ahead and spare him a little bit of time by sending the Reaver out there to take away their commander, their C3 Master, and because the Cyclops moved within 12 inches of the Raijin marked here, he has lost all his C3 networks on this turn. He is completely dark, and in a twist, we were dealing with a +1 for the Draconis Combine Initiative, and we've suddenly changed it in our favor. It's great. But he has indeed gotten aggressive, as the Militia Striker units are running away as fast as they can from the mechs that can see them. They are forced to act like tanks, which in normal Battletech, that's just a death sentence, but they're doing okay here. By okay, I mean my buddy has way too many more important things to take care of. Right now, the Vanquisher and Archangel have been trading with all the Inner Sphere forces, and they have lost quite a bit of armor. While they've been stripping it off everything that they can see, I'm not sure it's entirely clear all the smoke columns, but it's about to get a lot nastier as they're getting closer, and the Vanquisher and the Archangel is going to rip up the Marauder for the opportunity that it presented. Draconis Combine Commander goes down in a spray of confetti as the two Reavers manage to deal something like 13 or 14 points of damage to them by themselves. It's crazy. Just say I don't like that guy anymore and just park the Reavers at him. It's pretty nuts. While the artillery continues to rain in on the forest. Again, I keep saying I'm going to leave the forest, but maybe next time. Right now, the Archangel is suffering from significant heat problems, never having an opportunity to actually cool off, and it kind of makes sense to overheat him. With a skill of 1, he can just kind of eat the mods and keep firing. We managed to do quite a bit of damage to the Marauder, don't manage to put it down. I don't know what they're doing, but they need to get on the same training regimen as those Reavers. He realizes his mistake of getting too close to them, sends the Marauder back to maybe deal with that Preda before he decides to do some backstabbing, and leads the rest of the formation to try to take care of all their problems. The Kurita are in a very bad position, having lost several of their mechs. They no longer contain the initiative, they literally and functionally. Being placed on the back foot for them is really struggling. They've lost quite a bit. And to add insult to injury, the Cyclops is going to continue to be jammed thoroughly, hopefully with lots of Slayer music, because, if you're going to pick something to jam the network with, either Slayer music or maybe the Cardigans. The Cardigans is a good choice too. But however we're squelching their comms, we continue to seize the initiative, moving forward everywhere we can. It's really grim for my buddy, as the Reavers decide, you know what, the assault Manny Domini isn't doing the job right, let's make the Reavers take care of that Marauder. And that's just kind of it. The writing is on the wall, we don't have to really figure out what's going to happen, unless they both whiff it, and they won't this turn. Having lost the initiative this turn, he's also forced to make some really tough decisions in terms of where to move and how. And given that his medium units are really all scattered over here in these areas, he's trying to take on the assault Domini units, and they haven't moved yet. So it's a rough call. It really is. And as such, the Manny Domini take advantage of that tick in the initiative and move in such a way that none of the medium units have any kind of effective shot on nearly anything. It is worth noting that the Archangel is 1 point away, having taken several structure points of being in forced withdrawal, and the Vanquisher has no armor and is in almost the same situation, that a one good hit is going to probably kill it. The angry hand of statistics is dealt from the Reavers into the Marauder. He dies, and we begin focusing fire like an animal as the Archangel has to use his targeting computer like some sort of subhuman trash at the Grasshopper, notated right here, because he's too close for the C3 system to do anything. He's actually the closest unit. Imagine the horror. He had to target it manually without the C3 cheatery going on. Raijin on the back line continues to squelch all communications, does quite a bit of damage to the Whitworth, doesn't manage to put it down. Vanquisher continues to deal all kinds of damage to everything that it can see. We kill the Grasshopper, a round off the shootist manages to hit. He's actually been on fire this entire game, doing arguably more damage than the Archangel, if memory serves. And that's where we called it. It was pretty clear, and he was entertaining my masochism, I guess, that the game was over earlier, and we just wanted to see where it was going, because those Reavers were just decimating. They were just dominating the game. I was holding my own pretty okay with the Archangel, the Vanquisher, and the C3 nonsense, but those Reavers just rocked. Ultimately, in the last turn, he made the Thumpers fire flak at him, and I think they did 2 points of damage, but it's something to really consider. Those Reavers were pretty OP. 10 points of armor, and oh my gosh. But I digress. They're also really expensive, and they were just taking advantage of any kind of straggler out in the open, and when they were done with that, they managed to engage the heavier units without much concern about return ack, and that's something that you would normally see in Battletech, and it's something that I would suggest. Don't go over those juicy assault mechs. You might be able to kill one or two of them, but you're going to lose the fighter in return, and this is the same thing that happened here. They picked off a couple units on the fringes that were really juicy, like the Draconis Combine Commander and that catapult with the artillery, and it was just kind of over after that. But it's definitely something to think on in the long run. He couldn't really tag the broadside of the barn in the entire game. I think only one of those arrow units managed to connect, and I think it probably would have better been served if he was firing ADA rounds off that thing at the incoming fighters. He would have had a turn or two with just really annoying one of them. It could have also really benefited if he took a turn to kind of back off the main event. The Archangel and Vanquisher around turn 5 or so, you can see that they were backing off. I didn't want to deal with all the heat. There was too much fire coming at them, and I was about to lose them. That would have been a great turn to kind of consolidate everything and then just tempt those fighters into coming on and facing the ack. But it was a fun game. And this has been an Ouchies Batrep, and thanks for watching. Well, that's like with most artillery pieces. I bet you didn't pay much for it. You need masses of artillery to hope to.
I thought about putting 4. I just felt that was cheesy. But next time I will. I also thought about some.
There's no such thing as cheese used with artillery.
Yeah, you just that's what I do. Whenever I use artillery, usually it's like 5 or 6 tubes.